Hey guys, how are you doing? Today we're going to talk about getting smooth handheld footage without a gimbal in sight. People think to get that handheld smooth footage that you need a gimbal or a monopod. We just don't. And especially if you've just got into videography and you bought yourself a new camera and a new lens, gimbals can seem quite expensive. Also, if you're a traveler or you go on day hikes and you've only got your rucksack, then gimbals are not ideal because some are big and some are heavy. So walking around with that all day is not ideal. Plus, if you're one of those run and gun filmmakers where you want to get the moment straight away, then gimbals aren't ideal because you've got to set them up or you have to walk around with them already set up, which again is not ideal. That being said, I don't want to diss gimbals because they do have their place and they are great at what they do, especially if you're recording client work, then they are worth the money. This video I'm going to show you don't need a gimbal to get smooth handheld footage. I'm going to show you a couple of techniques that hopefully will get your footage looking a lot smoother, so you have to worry about buying a gimbal for now anyway. Personally, I think it's going to be really important to learn the techniques that I talk about today. It will make you a better videographer, filmmaker, ultimately a better cameraman. Now, I know there's people out there who will go and buy the latest gimbal, but I think you need to get these basics right, get them dialed in, and it will give you a great foundation going forward. Anyway, let's get into the video. The first technique I want to talk about is actually how you hold the camera. The amount of people I see just holding the camera with one hand and just shooting like this. And the problem you got is that when you're just holding with one hand, the camera is not very stable and it tends to wobble, or you get these micro wobbles. So a way you can instantly make this better is hold the camera with two hands, one usually on your handle and then the second hand underneath your lens or at the body of the camera. That just gives you a better foundation to work from, and it just cuts out those wobbles. The second technique I want to talk about is how to hold the camera with two hands. Now previously I did mention that holding it with two hands is obviously better than one, but when you're holding it with two hands, there's something else you can do to make it even better. So instead of holding the camera out here, sorry, computer stop. So you want to hold the camera close to your body, locking your elbows and try and keeping it steady as possible. Obviously, if you're out here, your arms can wobble, you can do the dance, you can do the chicken dance, do what you want. When you've got the camera close to your body, you can really lock it in and give you a really good foundation. But then you've got to try and remember to move your body as one, but try and relax at the same time. Don't be too stiff, because obviously if you're too stiff, you're not going to move very freely, but just nice and steady, and you get that kind of movement. So if you do these two techniques straight away, I guarantee you're going to get smoother footage. The third technique I want to talk about is a really easy one, and all you need for this is a good old camera strap. So just put it over your head, get it nice and comfortable. And all you want to do is extend your hands forwards so you've got some nice tension behind your neck and you've got a camera in a stable position. And obviously don't push too much because you're gonna have to snap your neck or even snap the strap. So just nice and comfortable, and then you just want to move the camera to whatever you want to do, and it does really stabilize the camera. The fourth technique I want to talk about again is a really easy one. All you need to do is make sure you've got all the settings dialed in before you start filming. So make sure that you've got the right focal length. If you have the button for automatic or manual focus on your lens, make sure that's set. Make sure all your exposure's set. So when you come to filming, you're not trying to change all these settings, which will just make the camera move and give you all this camera wobble. So once you've got them all dialed in and you want to start filming, and then all you got to think about is keeping that camera stable and what you're going to do with the camera. So next time you're filming, just make sure you give that a go. The next technique I want to talk about to get you that smooth handheld footage is recording in a wide focal length. Now this can be like a 16, 17mm, maybe up to 28mm. But once you sort of get to the hundreds to 200mm, any slight movement that you make in this camera will be hugely exaggerated. You'll be going all over the place. So try and record in a wide angle. Now I know some zoomed in lenses do come with a stabilizer and they do make a massive difference. But if you don't have one of those, make sure you try and record in a really wide angle because it does cut out those wobbles and they are less noticeable. So make sure to remember that one as well. Now you've got your stable footage when you're just standing static and you're just moving the camera. What about when you're actually moving with the camera? Now you say you probably need a gimbal for this, but there is actual techniques you can do that. So when you're walking with the camera, it's about how you walk. Now you can just walk normally and your camera is gonna bounce all over the place. The thing you wanna do is when you're walking, you wanna slightly bend your knees and then you wanna walk from heel to toe. Just walking really slowly, trying to keep your legs bent, and that'll try and cut out all those bumps into the camera. As well as that, you can even try and get a bit creative. So I've done some footage of standing on a skateboard, just pushing off the skateboard and holding the camera. Now, I do warn you, as an ex-skateboarder, watch out for those stones because you're going to get a face full of tarmac and you're probably going to break your camera. So don't do that. Just make sure that there's no stones. Also, you could use electronic skateboard. There's plenty of things you can use to give you that stable footage when you're moving. But remember, keep those techniques that I spoke about while you're on a skateboard. But please just be careful that you look where you're going and you don't hit any of those stones. As well as these three techniques, there is a couple other ways that we can get our footage looking even more smooth. The first one of these is recording in 60 or 120 frames per second. So then when we're in post, you can slow that footage right down and it does cut out those wobbles. As well as that, try and give movement to the camera. If you're just holding the camera, trying to keep it perfectly still, it's really hard to stop it wobbling. But if you actually move in the camera, it takes your eyes away from those wobbles because you're moving the camera. That's another technique we can use. The final thing I want to talk about is using stabilization in post or in your editing software. I just want to go over a couple of clips and give you some examples of using the techniques that I spoke about, changing it down to slow motion and also adding a stabilizer just to show you the difference. In the first clip, I'm not using any of the techniques that I spoke about before, and you'll see there's a lot of camera wobble as I follow the subject. In the second clip, you'll see that I'm using the technique that I spoke about before. I'm planting my heels first, then my toes, then also I'm bending my knees. And you'll see it does cut out a bit of those camera wobbles. And in the third clip, I've actually slowed down this in post, and you'll see it does cut down those little camera wobbles as well. And finally, in the last clip, I've used the technique that I spoke about before, slowed it down, and also added a stabilization in post, and you'll definitely see that it does cut down those camera wobbles and it looks pretty smooth even though we didn't use a gimbal. Anyway, I think that's enough of me talking today, so I've put a small video together, completely handheld, just demonstrating what you can do using the techniques that I spoke about today, so please enjoy. Thinking he used a gimbal, and I can guarantee you that I didn't use a gimbal It just shows you what you can do with a bit of practice to get some nice handheld footage. Anyway, that concludes the video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned a couple of things today, and hoping that your footage is going to become super smooth with all those techniques that we spoke about today. I just want to say a massive thank you to all my new and current subscribers, because you guys rock. My channel's actually got to 100 subscribers already, which I never thought would happen. So thank you for that. Also, if this is your first time watching my channel, welcome along. I've got plenty more content coming out. So if you did enjoy the video, please give it a massive thumbs up, because that means so much. And remember, you can subscribe to my channel, follow me on Instagram, and I'll see you in the next one.